From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Dayquil. Hi, I'm Nick Tangeman. If you're like me and you were born in the 1980s, you have a podcast. And like me, you understand the obligation that you have to your loyal listeners. We can't let the common cold get in the way of a good show. That's why when I'm feeling under the weather, I turn to Dayquil. Just 30 milliliters will get me out of bed and to the recording studio to produce a show I won't remember in the morning. Dayquil, you won't feel better, just different. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for Spot Therapy.
You know, I'm impressed that you wrote that while being hyped up on Dayquil. That was
the only way I could
good.
have written it.
That was damn
Pretty
good.
good.
Yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
legitimately very good, man.
That was yesterday when I was feeling terrible.
Oh my god.
Today, I feel so much better today than I did yesterday.
Yeah, I think that you sent me a text that was like, I am on death's door. Write the script.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, you've got this coming to you then. You know what happens when you put Jim in the driver's seat. It's bad for everybody.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you're sick.
I have not really looked this over at all, so let's
it's not
spin
too
the wheel
painful.
of destiny and see what we got.
Spin the wheel. Merry Christmas
Merry
or
Christmas.
Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. I don't know what you celebrate. What is your thing? Is it Festivus?
No, it's Christmas.
Okay.
But I'm not really...
You do the Santa Claus version of it.
Not even that. I don't know. We normally I would get like a tree and just kind of decorate the house. I still do a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
A lot of the regular stuff.
Okay.
But this year, no tree because we barely had a house.
Right. You don't want to take it all down. And you guys are actually searching for a new house right now.
Yeah, we were looking this morning. So
oh, cool. Any prospects?
Yeah, I think we found one.
Oh, cool. This side of town still, right? I hope you're prioritizing the
more
podcast.
Or less. It's going to be in the south, so
right.
Kind of down by the South Point.
All right. Oh, okay, that's actually good for me. So I'm glad you're checking with me first.
Yeah.
Because if you move too far, don't pass Russell. I'm not
that
coming.
That was one of our big conditions, is we needed to make sure it was okay.
Make sure I'm
Jim.
in the zone where Jim's at. So good, man. Did you get what was your favorite Christmas gift?
A pair of shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Laura got me a pair of shoes.
What were they? Dress shoes?
The way that they're actually some Vans.
Oh, cool.
Pair of Vans.
Do they look like sneakers?
Yeah, they're like kind of maroon.
That's a song.
Oh,
got my Vans on, but they look like sneakers. Yeah, it's okay.
Right.
Anyway.
All right.
So they were good shoes.
Good podcasting.
We're off to a great start. This is why you shouldn't be doped up. Happy Christmas, Jacob. How was yours?
That was fine until then.
Everything was going great.
Just fine.
This is why he usually tunes out.
This is why
No problem. It was ticking right along.
Yeah,
great.
And then everything went
a nice
wrong.
holiday, and now here I am.
Now here we are.
Ready.
You stay in town?
We SJ and I went down south to Texas and Louisiana.
Oh, damn.
About a week and a half before Christmas.
Okay.
Saw the family down there, and then we were in town for Christmas itself.
Okay, right on. So you guys,
which is the way to do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Get
it done.
all of Christmas done.
Yep.
Week and a half before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then
Just relax.
Christmas morning rolls around. We'd gotten food to make ourselves a little Christmas dinner that day.
Oh, nice.
We were out late the night before, so we woke up, didn't
Perfect.
feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Went and got sushi.
There it is.
Yeah.
Christmas sushi.
Christmas sushi.
God, that's a great
That's
idea.
a great idea.
Yeah.
That's like what Jewish people do. It's always Chinese food on Christmas.
Right.
That's like the tradition. So it's the Japanese food. You go straight to the sushi.
It was a lot of Jews and Asians.
Yeah.
And us just eating sushi.
Yeah,
It was
you walk
great.
in and they're like, Mazel tov, here's your sushi.
Yeah.
And they go, oh,
We're
thanks.
like, this is lovely. What else
Great
do you
idea.
want? And then we had shows that night, so it was fine.
Oh my God, served with lox.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. You guys performed that night?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Absinthe
Wow.
is 365 days a year.
Oh, man,
We
God,
don't
they
take
ain't
a day
messing
off.
around.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it just happened this year. We
Oh.
went to 7 days a week, 365 this year.
Holy cow,
14
man.
shows every week.
Jeez.
Wow.
Wow, Christmas night performing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What was your favorite gift?
I only got one gift, or from SJ. I got one
Sure.
gift, which was also a pair of shoes.
Ah.
A pair of Golden Knights Converse.
Oh,
nice.
no
Yeah,
way!
they're pretty
They
good.
exist?
Oh, not legally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This
got
woman,
you.
I believe,
I got
we
you.
we all believe this woman is going to get shut down.
Oh, yeah. The lady in a
Any
van? I've seen
Yeah,
her. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's screen printed onto a pair of Converse.
Nice.
That is cool.
They're great. I mean, they're great
That's
quality.
really cool. That's awesome.
And I asked my in-laws for Home Depot gift cards.
That's what you need.
Because I desperately needed it.
That's You got that new house.
Yeah.
So you got plenty going on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Just happy
very
to get
cool.
that. And then my family got us some art.
Oh, cool.
For
Like
the
to
new
hang?
place. Yeah.
For the new place. Oh, very nice.
So that was great.
See, we don't do a whole lot of gift exchange
Yeah.
because I usually make a deal with everybody. Because I'll
Cards.
say
You
no,
want cards.
no. I won't even say that. I'll say, hey, tell you what, don't get me anything. I won't get you anything.
That's the
And then-
deal.
Yeah, and
Everybody's
it's
better off.
It's so much better. I
Wow.
love.
If you get me something, I'll slap you.
Yeah,
Deal?
'cause
Don't you do this?
Yeah, because
you
you
put me
got
in a corner.
All that is an obligation now that I
Right.
owe somebody a Christmas present.
Okay.
Giftless Christmas is the best way to go.
Yeah, we do like because we have a lot of people like in our generation. So my wife has 3 brothers, I have a
Right.
sister, and we're all piled up for Christmas, right? So we usually do like a Secret Santa, like a gift exchange. So
Right.
everybody pulls a name, and then we do that. Oh, jeez! Did you get
Did
Jacob
you
anything?
really?
Did you get Jacob anything?
Yeah,
What
I
a
want to
dick.
get you something.
Yes.
Oh, jeez, you didn't get
Well,
Jacob anything?
What I'll do
I
is
thought
I'll
we were exchanging gifts.
I thought that you didn't get the text on this. God, that's so embarrassing.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my God!
There you go, Jim. Now Jim's
I got
got
hot chocolate bark. Hey, I got you this. Oh yeah, you're welcome. And this is exactly what we do at Christmas time. Is all we do is just re-gift every damn thing.
I got Jim a half-eaten candy bar.
That's right. That was the gift I wanted. Dude, re-gifting though.
Still good. I broke off the pieces that aren't
It's
there.
funny because it's still good. My wife's a teacher, so in the week leading up to Christmas break, she just gets piles of stuff. I mean, Starbucks gift cards, coffee mugs, like trees of chocolate or whatever. And so then and candles and stuff. So she just carefully goes through it, takes all the bags. Like basically, she's set for like all of her acquaintances
then
and everybody
re-gift
she's going to
it.
re-gift it to.
That's-
Yep. She's golden, except for all the stuff she
Genius.
wants. But my favorite gift, since you both asked, was the camera that is sitting between the 3 of us right now. It is a Samsung Gear 360, not to be confused with 3D. And I'm trying it out. So if you are a Patreon of the show, then you are entitled to watch this. You can go onto our Patreon and you can see the link to the undisclosed YouTube video, and you can check out a live 360 recording.
It looks a lot like the good robot from WALL-E.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
That's Wally, actually. That's
I thought the old robot
oh,
was WALL-E. The
Eva.
Yeah, the new robot.
I should call it Eva. That's a
There you go.
really good idea. Damn.
There
Good
we
job,
go.
man. Yeah, so Eva's watching us right now, and if you'd like to watch through Eva, you can go to our Patreon. So
Yeah.
it was fun. My 3-year-old daughter still believes in Santa, and so it's fantastic. So she came downstairs and like flipped the crap out and saw everything. But like anything that I had to personally build, I let her know. That's Daddy. That is not that fat bastard. He does not get credit for this. It was this fat bastard. I built that dollhouse. I built a dollhouse that took me 3 freaking nights. I spent 6 clock hours building this thing. Nothing but an Allen wrench. It was a beast.
It is IKEA?
It felt like it. It is the size of like Jacob's entire desk. It's huge. It's taller than that. It goes up to like the height of these chairs.
Wow.
Dude, it was wild.
You got to get an Allen wrench attachment for a drill.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
Those are
God,
good.
I'm sure that already exists, and I'm not handy. I don't have anything
I
cool.
mean, yes.
Nobody got me Home Depot cards.
I didn't mean like make one. I mean go get one.
What you do is go fabricate one. Whatever. Let's do therapy. I'll stick to what I'm good at. It's not handy.
To a lot of our listeners, we apologize. For the last several episodes, we've been just kind of jerking around and not really actually getting to any listener mail. So
Well, you did your bonus
actually
episode.
have-
We did our SMART goal. So when folks are hearing this, it will be 2019. And you can go back in the feed and you can see a bonus episode. That was awesome.
So we have gotten way behind on listener mail.
Yeah, which is
So,
great, though, because
yeah.
we have some really good stuff. And so for those of you that have been waiting patiently, we are now putting them in order and doing them in the order
Hopefully
that
none
we
of it
receive
was
them.
time sensitive.
Yeah. Let's start with the first one. Dear Nick and Jim, I'm standing on a bridge. Oh, shit. Oh, we should have gotten to this.
Yeah.
But in fairness, you should always dial 911 whenever you are in danger, not write into a podcast.
Right.
I'm in danger, so I'm taking the time to write this, and I'm also sending it USPS. Get back to me whenever. Hugs and kisses. All right, so let's dive into the first one here. The first one is titled Not Good Enough Complex. Hey guys, I love your show. I was having a discussion with my roommate last night and thought the topic might be great for your podcast. First, a little backstory. I'm a lucky girl with awesome parents. They always made it clear that I am loved, they support my choices, and just want to see me happy. But growing up, my parents, and particularly my father, always pushed me to do better. I know his intention was to teach me to be ambitious, hardworking, and to always strive for improvement. He didn't want me to be entitled, and he wanted me to always do my best. However, it had an unintended side effect of creating what I call the not good enough complex in me. For example, when I brought home all A's and B's in school, he would say, "Good job, I'm so proud of you, but I know you're smart enough to get all A's." I know he was proud of me and loved me, but it often left my little kid heart feeling like my efforts were not good enough, and therefore I was not good enough. Looking back, I want to tell my young self that it's not what he meant, and to not read into what he said. This complex has led to lots of success in my life. I graduated with honors in high school and college. I've worked hard at my job and was just promoted. And I'm now finishing an MBA program with a 4.0 GPA so far. This mental programming has been really beneficial for me in some ways, but in other areas it has been detrimental. I struggle in relationships because I don't think I'm good enough for them. I struggle with people doing nice things for me as I don't feel I really deserve it. In fact, this topic came up when my roommate suggested I started getting regular massages from a professional as he thought it would help me with my stress levels and physical health. And I thought to myself, I don't deserve that luxury. My question is two-parted. Number one, do you guys have any advice to stop this not good enough idea in my head? I'm in therapy right now and I've been working on it, but there is this thought that it might be helpful to hear some feedback from you guys. Number two, what can parents do to carefully tread these waters and encourage their children to work hard and be ambitious without unintentionally creating this not good enough complex in their children? I don't have children, but I think this would be useful to people who do. I know my dad had the best intentions and had he known this would be the result, he would have tried another approach, but I honestly don't know what else he could have done. Thanks so much for your awesome show, Kelly.
That's a great question.
It is a great question. Man, so what's interesting about that, though, is how she talks about how her father kind of spoke this way to her. He was kind. He wasn't belittling her.
Right.
You know, this wasn't negative. This wasn't criticism. It was sort of a yes, but.
Right.
And yes, but praise kind of leads to this, doesn't it? Like, we've seen this before.
Yeah, it does. And I'm interested to kind of get your take on this because I can have mixed feelings on it. I think kind of addressing number two, her second question is, from the parent's perspective, what can they do to ensure that this doesn't happen? It's always interesting to kind of figure out where this thought process kind of comes from and how much of it is actually due to the parents, because social environment, as far as like friends,
right,
kids that we grow up with, have an impact too.
Yeah.
And we tend to kind of forget about that, and that's a pretty big chunk of the equation. So
right,
it's not just parents raising them, it's the entire environment around the kid.
For sure.
Everything has an impact in it. And we've gotten away from this old way of thinking that that being tough on your kids is a good thing.
Right.
I remember, I don't know if you ever listened to Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh yeah, I've heard
it. Did you listen to the one where he had Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
No. Dale Earnhardt Jr., the driver, the race car driver.
Yeah, you should listen to that. It's really interesting because he was talking about the relationship he had with his dad.
Oh, wow.
And how his dad never praised him for anything.
Oh, wow.
And when he never gave him any advice on racing cars, never helped him out with anything.
Yeah.
And so he was, racing in this amateur circuit or whatever when he was younger, and he won. He won his first race. And so he left his trophy out, for his dad to be able to see it in the shop when he comes by. And,
right.
And his dad said, "Oh, you won." He's like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "Oh, well, so-and-so must not have showed up that night."
Oh my gosh.
And
jeez.
And so Joe Rogan was kind of interviewing him, and he's like,
wow.
He's like, "Yeah, but you know what? I'll bet that really helped motivate you and really got you motivated to want to win." And Junior's response to that was, "No, actually it didn't. It made me want to quit."
Yeah. It's a very careful threshold, right?
Right.
Gosh, I mean, that's so like, I really empathize with the Earnhardt example and also with this writer. Like, I know that feeling. My father has this saying that, so in my household, my mom, it didn't matter what I did. If I got a C, she was like, "That's my boy. You're a genius." Like, it did not matter.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah, she did not care. So I had like this guaranteed like cheerleader in my corner who was like, no matter what you do, like, you're awesome. I believe that you're special. And so, like, it was awesome. But that definitely counterbalanced my father. My father was the kind of guy that, similar to this story, like, if you come home with A's and B's, it's like, hey, really great job, and pick you up, toss you around. Hey, we're going out to dinner tonight. Great job. And then when you're at dinner, it's like, okay, so what are we going to do to try to, take this to the next level? It was always the next level. I remember when I was in speech and debate in high school, which is, where all the popular kids competed in sport,
Right.
That's what we did. Because I didn't want to step down to quarterback of the football team. I wanted to stay up there at the speech and debate.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so popular that you are forced to have to explain it to us now.
Yeah. Well, I'm just reminding you
Right.
of what you probably already knew. But no, it was really competitive, and like, our school was really big, and we had like 100 people on the team, and it was this thing. And in Las Vegas, it's a district thing. It was a really big deal. So I had won the county championship. And I remember my dad being like, "Wow, that's incredible. You won. Like, you got first place." And I was like, "Yeah, I did it. I won the county." And he's like, "Wow, that's great. So is there like a bigger tournament than this? Is there like another one?"
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, there is. There's districts." And he was like, "Great. So are you like getting ready for that one now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess. But like, there's not." So then I competed in districts, and then I won that one. And he was like, "Oh my God, what happens now?" It's like, I go to nationals. He's like, "Okay, so you think you're going to..." It's like, this is stupid. Like, I never felt good enough.
So you can relate to this.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
don't know. That doesn't really sound like that's a bad thing. I mean, he's still congratulating you. He's still saying that you're doing a good job.
But what the writer's saying is, it's a double-edged sword.
Sure.
And I think that this is actually true in a lot of people's lives. So in my private practice, I work with a lot of like really successful people, affluent people who've done really well. And the common thread between all those folks that have that tenacity and that drive is nothing was handed to them. And they had to climb their way up. They have a chip on their shoulder because they didn't have all cheerleaders telling them they're good enough as they are. They had people telling them, "Work harder, you're almost there."
Right.
And my dad has this saying that he said, he used to say this to me all the time. He says, "May your reach always exceed your grasp." And what that means is, if I could reach the cup on the table, he'd push the cup a little further down the table.
Sure.
So that I'd have to climb up there to get it. And as soon as my hand could get around it, he'd push it a little bit further. And, he thought he was doing me a favor, which he was. It causes a complex. And like Freud talked about this all the time. It's mine. I got my football scores just came in. So it does cause a complex. And Freud would talk about this, right? Because he called them good neuroses. And Freud, back in Freudian psychoanalytics, his thing was, I'm not trying to get rid of your problem. I'm trying to redirect it into a useful thing, right? So if you're neurotic and you worry a lot, let's channel that into something that can be useful in your life. And he called it a good neurosis. In the writer's example, I think that this is an example of it generates a positive effect in your life. But the thing you trade for that amazing skill, the thing you trade for that drive that others don't have, that pushes you further when others are ready to retire and be happy with what they've got, and you're always unhappy, you trade happiness.
Right.
I cannot have any measure of success that would cause me to sit back and say, I've done it.
Right.
I can retire now. In fact, I have several patients that I work with right now. The thing they are in therapy for is they are ready to retire, and their family wants them to. And they can't do it. Even though they are multimillionaires, there's no further up to go. Why keep pushing? Why keep working? Why slay another dragon? And they feel like they're like, "Jim, it's insane. Like, I don't know why." And this is part of it, though. It's this legitimately a complex that you are kind of stuck in. So I think the writer's onto something here that A, lot of us can identify with, and B, is true. It's just self-evidently true. A lot of people get this.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think it's like you said, it's kind of a trade-off where when you develop one thing that's very positive and very helpful, there is a negative. And part of it comes back to belief systems, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of forms this way that we see the world. I can kind of relate to that in the sense that I always believed, my belief system that I've always had is that if I work hard enough, I can achieve anything.
Right.
Right. Which sounds like a great belief system.
Right.
But nothing is 100% perfect. Right.
Right.
The trade-off to that then is if I work really hard at something and I don't accomplish it, then I I will beat myself up.
Right.
Because then it's, if I work hard enough, I can accomplish anything. Well, I
Yes.
didn't accomplish it, therefore I must not have worked hard enough.
Yes.
Why didn't I work harder? Why didn't I put in the extra hours, doing whatever I needed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And you can get down into this negative spiral of thinking.
Yes.
I think that it's great that to the listener, I think it's awesome that you're already in therapy.
Good job.
Yeah,
that's
so-
fantastic.
Number one, and then number two, your self-awareness already is very good.
Yes.
I would be interested to hear how your therapist is addressing it.
Yeah.
Me, from my perspective, we talk a lot on the podcast about CBT.
Yeah,
cognitive
that's where I was
behavioral
going to go with
therapy.
it too.
That's always my go-to because
Yeah.
I use it so much in addictions treatment.
Yep.
So, and it's very helpful. So I always get into, being able to, number one, recognize the thought when it occurs.
Right.
That's the most difficult thing. Whereas
Yes.
a lot of folks aren't aware of their automatic thought process.
Right.
It seems like you are aware of it.
Yes.
Like when it happens, you are aware of it. You are able to challenge yourself. I think you're on the right track. And I think I would just encourage you to continue to challenge those thoughts when you recognize them. I don't deserve this kind of luxury of getting massages.
Right.
Okay, well, let's take that thought to court. What evidence do you have to support that?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Right.
And is this... Is there evidence to support that, or is this because of this faulty belief system that you've developed?
So I love that you brought up CBT, because to answer her first question, do you have any advice to stop doing this? Yes. And the answer is that I would want you, and this is probably what your therapist is beginning to do, is to do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, a lot of therapists don't announce that they're doing this, okay? It's just
Right.
a subtle thing that they're doing with their engagement style with you. But essentially, you are doing in this, and I do this too, right? This is another, if you're playing Jim's Neurotic Bingo at home, you can punch this one. This is a cognitive distortion. It is a false perspective on your reality based on a belief system. And that is an inaccurate belief. And this distortion particularly, while there's many lists of distortions you can point to, the one I would identify here is disqualifying the positive.
Yes.
And so disqualifying the positive is when you shrink your victories and you magnify your failures. And so if you screw something up, that's huge, that's big, we got to address that. Whatever's missing is huge and obvious to you, and you have to get to that. But you don't notice what you've already built. You don't notice what's already good. And when people bring it up to you and they say, hey man, you're doing really great, you go, well, that doesn't count. Well, why? Because there's so much left to do.
Yeah.
Well, what about the B's that you got? Well, those aren't A's. Okay, are you actually upset about it? No, I'm not upset, but I'm unsatisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of need to reach out again. So I also want to bring up the concept of function, because if this is a dysfunctional belief, then we need to address it. Right now it's functional, though. It's
Right.
getting a lot of things done in your life. I suffer from the same thing, but it's getting things done in my life. And it's just the ability to reach up and turn that switch off if I need to,
Yes.
so that I can have rest.
Yeah.
Or
Good
feel
point.
like I do deserve to enjoy the fruits of my labor, that kind of thing. And that's where CBT is really effective, and asking myself those questions, like taking a thought to court and looking for the facts.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I like the analogy that you're using of kind of having that switch
Yes.
of, okay, this is awesome. It works great in my professional life.
Yes.
Now I can flip that switch and I can just, in my personal life, just relax a little bit.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that would be a tactic to kind of take too, is using some kind of mental exercise to separate professional life from personal life.
Yeah, and also to begin challenging the belief. Like, who taught you that? Why is that not accurate, right? Let's get facts. So CBT would be the thing I want you to do. To the second question about parenting, I'm so glad she asked this.
Yes.
Because I see this all the time. I have young patients that I work with that are kids, and I usually meet with their family as well. And when I catch parents doing this, I will stop them. And I will try to retrain them the way I want them to talk to their kid. Because they'll start saying nice things and they'll notice their kid kind of zoning out. And it's like, why is that kid doing that? Because the kid knows what's about to happen. From your very cadence of praise, the child can tell that you're about to go to but or and. You're going to say, Nick, you've been doing a great job in the first year. Your podcast is a success. You're doing awesome, man. I'm so excited for you. You've really achieved everything, And next season, boy, you could really take it to the next level. I'm so excited to see what you do because I have some ideas for you. And, I just want you to remember. And it's like, whoa. When we do this to kids, we need to just be present. Let the thought come to a full stop. Great job. I'm so proud of you. That's it. Leave it there. Don't add more.
maybe I kind of grew up the same way, because as you were saying that, like, none of that bothered me.
It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you, right? But this is...
But you think it trains the mind to focus on...
Yes.
So what about this then? So what if, from a parent's perspective, if the parent, instead of taking the driver's seat and talking about what is the next step, they kind of take the passenger seat? As in, like, once the child starts talking about, how do I go from a B to an A?
Right.
Then the parent jumps in and kind of reinforces that thought.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're a parent and you're listening to this, here's my opinion. Victory laps are not part of the race. Take a victory lap. A victory lap is a waste. A victory lap is burning through fuel and cheers, and it's part of what we do. If we do not have closure at the end of success, we do not feel like we're part of this. And so if you get to the end of the Super Bowl and you're Bill Belichick and they interview you and the confetti's falling down and you're hoisting the trophy in the air and they say, Coach, you did it. Congratulations. And he says, we have a lot of improvement to do before next season. You feel like you're being cheated from something. There's an emotion that's being robbed from you. You're not getting completion. And so when your child is successful, as a parent, I want you to rest in that thought for a while. Pause. Victory lap. Don't add anything to it. Don't start talking about what comes next, because as humans, we need completion and finality. And if you rob your child of that, this is what causes the complex. They don't know how to come to a complete stop. They start thinking about the next thing.
So I'm going to ask you a question follow-up, because I can hear listeners already kind of jumping to, but then by doing that, aren't you kind of getting them to that point where they feel like, I have accomplished the goal, now I can just sit and relax and I never have to...
I think there is such thing as a victory lap. I think that there's too many examples in life of winners who can win and take a season off and come back. And I think that here's the risk of this. It's easy to point to the writer. It's easy to point to me and say, well, why wouldn't I want my kid to do what these guys are doing, right? Mm-hmm. Fine. It's a problem, though, because there is such a thing as workaholics.
Sure.
And there is such a thing as people who are never satisfied. And it is toxic. And they are very detrimental to themselves, and they're hard to live with. It's hard whenever you love that kind of a person and you want to take a break with them and they can't vacate. I can't take a vacation. It's hard for my brain to do it. And my father was the same way. And you might admire those people, like we might admire the Steve Jobs of the world or whoever the heck can do these things and never stop. But it's also hard to be that person. And so if our real goal is balance, if our real goal is like, I would like to enjoy the fruits of my labor and I'm kind of maddened that I can't, that's a problem. And so this advice is how you would like program your child to take a break. It's okay to teach your child to recreate, to enjoy, to take a victory lap, to be proud of what they've done. But if what they do always results in what they could be doing next, I don't know that that's correct balance. Now, if you want to train your kid to be the next Tiger Woods, this is how you do it. And if that's your only goal, that's fine. But a lot of these people will still tell you they're unhappy. And I think that's something we got to take into account as well.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Good question.
Yeah,
though.
Thanks for writing in, Kelly. Follow up with us. Let us know. I'm really interested, like what types of therapy your therapist is using and what you're currently working on.
Yeah.
What kind of homework assignments he or she gives you. That'd be interesting to kind of hear.
Awesome question. Thanks for writing in.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we discuss losing your identity when losing weight. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is David Datascoop Villalon. So David wrote in on Twitter a while ago asking for a book on boundaries. And I gave him a recommendation, and it turns out that it was a very religious book, and I didn't know it was. And so he wrote to me saying, hey, it's really good, except for the part where I drew a pentagram, put it in the middle, and set it on fire.
I saw that this morning, because then he tagged me in it. And
he's like,
hey,
Nick, can I get a second opinion?
Can you jump in? And it's funny because that is like the number one book.
It is the number
most
one
common book, but unfortunately,
it's super religious.
So
don't worry, I've sent David several other recommendations that are of a more secular variety. But David, we are so grateful for your support of the show, and thank you so much for continuing to be an advocate for mental health and also putting up with my religious nonsense. If you'd like to help make the show possible, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's www.patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next question is about weight loss identity. This one's a really good one. Hey there, Nick and Jim. I've been on a weight loss journey for the past 3 to 4 years. I'm finding that as my weight drops, my brain is slipping back into an old way of thinking that I wasn't aware of until I was very overweight. When I was at my most fit in high school, I weighed 130 pounds. I felt and saw myself as the size of a house. It didn't matter that I was active or played sports. My brain didn't match reality. I felt gigantic. I had no confidence and did not feel attractive at all. My weight crept up in college to 160 pounds and continued to creep up until I got married and was 180 pounds, until I weighed my heaviest 5 years ago at 255 pounds. At that weight, I knew I was unhealthy, but I felt cute and sexy and confident. Looking at pictures of me at that weight, I don't recognize the person wearing my clothes. They don't look the way my brain saw them. Then Penn Jillette lost a bunch of weight, and hearing him talk, but more so hearing Matt Donnelly share his stories about weight on Ice Cream Social, inspired me to get on board. Yesterday, I weighed 200 pounds. This is the lightest I've been in probably 10 years. It's crazy to think in a day I'll be in the 100s, a huge feat. I've worked out a system that works for me: calorie counting, tracking movement, step counting, daily tracking of weight, and food and emotional journaling that's posted daily in a support group for eating and weight loss run by the Scoops called the Fatty Rabbit Club. I feel better. I'm eating better. I've stopped most of my emotional eating by becoming aware of triggers and allowing myself to be uncomfortable and sit with emotions. But now, I'm noticing my brain is starting to play tricks on me again. I know I look better now than I did. But when I look at my body in the mirror, my brain sees someone much heavier than I am. I'm beginning to be uncomfortable in my skin again, and I don't know if this is part of the weight loss process. I'm getting lumpy and squishy as I lose weight and things shift around, or if this is something I need to address, or both. I feel like because I'm now aware of the opposite body image I had when I was thin, that I'm allowing myself to fall back into the same mindset. I don't want to see myself as the person I didn't recognize in my fat pictures. I know being aware will help, but what else can I do to prevent my brain from flipping my self-image again? I have about 60 pounds left to lose. I'm going to look and feel great when I get there. I just want my brain to match what everybody else sees. Salt pork, Heather.
Salt pork.
Salt pork.
This is a really good one.
God, that's such a great question because she did it. She did everything that we advise. The emotional journal, the food journal, support group, tracking calories. I mean, all of that was such a practical way to do it, and it got results. But Nick, what's powerful about that is when she was at her younger and healthier weight, at that time she had body image issues.
Right, but then when she was at 255... And that's when she said, I felt cute, sexy, and confident.
Right. And now she's switching gears. And so how do you go back? So I think that this sounds a lot like dysphoria, body image dysphoria.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, too.
Yeah, at least when she was younger. But it kind of is that again. And that's what's fascinating about it.
But it's weird, though, that at her heaviest, it wasn't there.
That doesn't shock me very much.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of doesn't. Because you're so aware of your weight that you kind of have to do this mental switch where if you hate yourself all the time, it'd be dangerous, right? So like at some point, your brain sort of adapts and accepts that this is who you are. You become, and also it's not surprising because that was her weight as an adult. And so whenever you come into your adult ego, your adult id, your adult mind, and that's your weight, you kind of do develop your personality around that weight. And then whenever you start losing that weight, you do feel different than your old self. And so that can be an out-of-body experience, literally, in that sense.
Wow. So that's interesting. And thank you for mentioning the Fatty Rabbit Club.
Yeah.
Somebody else mentioned that to me, too. I want to actually, it's on Facebook. I want to get on there.
But another podcast who is not us, but who we're friends with and in their studio right now is Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social. And they have a really cool chat room thing that they use called Discord. And there's different support groups in there, and there's one for weight loss. So everything that she did was correct. So Heather, I want to give you some feedback on this because actually, if you're playing Jim's Neurotic Bingo at home, this is yet another one that you can ping for me.
We need to get those cards actually made.
Somebody's going to do it. I'm waiting for one of our listeners. THERAPOD is going to create this and send it around and play bingo at home. So I did this. At my heaviest, I was 250, and then I went through a crisis in my life, and I dropped down to 190, I think, and it happened really, really fast. And I remember at the time, people were complimenting me. And my wife and her family and other people were saying, wow, Jim, you look really good. Did you lose weight? Did you lose weight? And I didn't mentally look like I couldn't understand that I had.
Right.
I would look at the numbers on the scale, but I didn't mentally see the difference. And I would look in the mirror and I didn't mentally see it. I would have to like remind myself that it had happened. And I could only tell because clothes were falling off of me and I was like buying new things, but it didn't feel real. And what's interesting is I remember this. I had finally gotten down to a weight that's like now my target weight, right?
Yeah.
But I remember, and I swear this happened, what she's talking about, I remember this feeling. I remember looking in the mirror and saying, God, I look like a child. I feel like a child again.
After you've lost all the weight?
Yeah. Even though my wife and other people are going, Jimmy, you look great, you look great, you look great. I looked in the mirror and thought, God, I feel like a child. When I was at a heavier weight, that was me as an adult. And returning to a weight I hadn't been in since high school put me into a body that reminded me of being young. And it didn't feel flattering. I looked in the mirror and I felt weak. Even though my arms had not lost any muscle, I had lost fat.
Sure.
But that bulkness as a man had especially affected me where I felt very scrawny now and didn't like that feeling. And I remember that. I remember noticing that. Yeah.
So when you're trying to lose weight,
yeah.
What do you identify? I mean, what is kind of the goal? Do you go by strictly what is on the scale? Because like for me,
you're thinking about health.
My mindset is overall health.
Right.
And the big difference I notice when I'm doing really well, it's not that I weigh more or less. It's not that I feel like I look different. For me, it has to do with my energy level.
Right.
When I'm going to the gym on a regular basis and I'm eating healthy,
yeah,
I feel good and I feel like I have energy. And that's the thing that keeps me motivated. And that's what I define as healthy.
Right.
So I have a scale. I've got a really nice scale.
Right.
I haven't used it in probably 4 months
Sure.
because I was losing weight but gaining muscle.
Here's the difference, though, and this is something I think you can't identify with Heather and I on. For you, that scale and that number is data. It's just data.
Yes.
It's data like my calorie count. It's data like my blood pressure. To us, as long as I have known you, you have never been a different frame. I've seen you bulk up and like your arms are bigger, but like your size has not changed. You're pretty much the same guy I've met. In Heather, in my case, we have ballooned and gotten down again. And like multiple sizes of change and an identity shift as I'm the jolly guy who's kind of big and enjoying myself versus I look like, another guy. And so like that shift is an identity one. It's very different. And so like for me, that number has meaning. Like I went from like 230 to 220 and that's just numbers, right? Just data. It's a shift of personality too, because I start to see myself as a different man, a different version of me.
But don't you assign the value to that number?
Yes. Oh no, it's entirely subjective.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, do you feel like that is an effective way to do it, or do you feel like it would be more effective if you looked at that number as being something different? As you change the value of that number.
No, I think you're right. And that I think is ultimately the advice that we'll give to Heather, which is this is a belief system, okay? And so for you to feel like a fish out of water, for you to feel like an out-of-body experience, for you to look at yourself and not recognize yourself is, I think, innately psychologically true. And so I identify it. But the underlying problem, Heather, that I want you to appreciate, and this might be something you want to take a good look at, is it called body dysmorphic disorder, Nick? BDD. Mm-hmm. So BDD, body dysmorphic disorder, is whenever you look in the mirror and you experience what we call dysphoria, right? So euphoria is to feel really good about something and to feel very pleasured about something. Dysphoria is, of course, the exact opposite. So when a person has body dysphoric disorder, I think it's dysphoric disorder, basically what that means is at any given weight, whatever they are, they experience this sense that something is wrong and that they do not recognize themselves. So it's almost that dissociative out-of-body experience. So as you have really channeled psychology, Heather, in your work to drop this weight and to get down to a healthier body size, the next step for you is going to be addressing this hidden problem that was inside of you as a child. That when you were in high school, you looked at yourself at a healthy weight and you saw a giant person, and whenever you were at a larger weight, you saw somebody that you recognized, you're going to feel dysphoria for a while, and that's something I think you ought to go in to see a therapist for, because unaddressed, it probably will not get you to results.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
This may not be a bad idea. I mean, that's, again, the whole purpose of the show is to kind of remove some of that stigma and get people to look at therapy as not being like, I need to see a therapist because something's wrong, but I need to see a therapist just for the added support.
Right.
You go to, people will go to a personal trainer at the gym.
Just
Therapy
maintenance.
therapy it's a personal trainer for your mind, basically. And if you're going through a tremendous amount of weight loss and it sounds like you're doing great, you're meeting your goals, that's awesome. Why not just add that extra layer of support? I'd get in and talk to somebody as well.
Absolutely. I think that's the next step. And you're absolutely right, Nick. Sometimes when you remove the obstacles, you find big things underneath the ground.
Yep.
Right? It's after you've dug it up that you find the wires, and that's whenever a therapist can be really helpful too. So, Heather, congratulations on your new goal. Congratulations on reaching the 100s. And now that you've arrived there, congratulations on the insight that you've achieved. And our recommendation is that you go ahead and maybe talk to somebody about body dysphoric disorder. I think that would be a good conversation to have.
Yeah. I mean, even if, and here's the other thing, Heather, even if you don't meet criteria for that disorder, even if there's no diagnosis, even if it's nothing, just having somebody that you can talk to on a regular basis that you can bounce ideas off of and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm feeling. And this is why also I think that what the Scoops got on their Facebook thing with that
support group.
Yeah, I think is awesome. I love support groups.
Yes.
Because there's things that you can ask Jim and I. This is a great example where Jim can relate to that, and I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I got nothing. But having a support group like that, you've got a whole bunch of people right at your disposal. You can kind of bounce ideas off of, get some support, get some help.
Great question, Heather. Thank you so much for writing in.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about sex depression. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Judi Schneider. Judi wants to give a shout out to her dear friend Dr. Hariyardi Shashima Abdul Majid and her amazing team members at Mercy Malaysia. Mercy Malaysia offers early counseling and psychological support for persons affected by disasters and gives the victims a safe space to express their feelings and thoughts. Sharima is currently caring for her father, who is suffering from Alzheimer's, while still organizing and planning for Mercy Malaysia when time allows. Judi wants the world to know how proud she is of Sharima and her astounding work ethic, and just wants to say that she loves her, misses her warm hugs, and thinks about her wonderful father every day. If you'd like to join the party and help make this show possible and tap into all of our special content, you can join us at patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next listener writes in about sex depression. So this one came to us from Twitter, Nick, and here's what it says. Hey guys, I'm a new fan and listener to the podcast. A really good friend recommended it, and I'm already 30 episodes in. Well, that's the end of that friendship.
So our feedback doesn't matter because they've stopped listening by now.
30 episodes in, I'm sure that's over. Fantastic work and very informative. So I have a question that I feel like I want to bring up. Is it weird for me to get depressed when someone is talking about sex? I'm 29 and never been in a relationship, nor had sex. I've had thoughts of maybe like getting a sex worker or a one-night stand, but I tell myself I shouldn't think like that. I should stick to finding somebody special and work on that relationship to see if it goes to sexual. I've honestly had to skim a bit of the episodes of the podcast that were sex-related, like the orgy one, because it made me feel depressed. Granted, I do want to have sex, but I can't. I don't know what to do with myself. Am I weird or am I not? Great question.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're weird.
No, you're not weird.
I mean, ultimately, I think it really just kind of depends on, here we go again with that idea of the meaning that you put on it, right?
Right.
I mean, sex is a lot different now than it was in the past. People put a lot of different meanings on it, and there's not any meaning that's necessarily wrong with it.
Right.
It's just kind of whatever it means to you.
Yeah, but that I think is so important. Like, one of the things he or she is talking about here is something I want us to appreciate, and a lot of times we don't in society. Sex is a psychological and emotional thing. A lot of us want to believe that it can just be casual, just be physical, and I think it can be in the same way that, you can just enjoy an appetite, right?
Right.
But more often than not, it is a deeply psychological thing. And so when this person's talking about feeling depressed because they have not yet had sex, and the topic now feels harmful to them or feels aversive to them, that's an interesting takeaway, right? Because I can see where it's been built up to that point of like, what is this thing? And now I kind of feel shame because I haven't had it, and society kind of mocks those who haven't, and now I kind of don't feel comfortable with the topic. So there's a lot there that I think can happen because of the absence of engagement with the thing.
That's a good point. So I guess as a follow-up question, I'm kind of wondering, how long has this been going on? Like, is this something that has been developing over
the
past
aversion
several years?
Right.
Yeah. So then I guess what I'm kind of thinking is, if that's the case, then this is a learned behavior, right?
Right.
It's something that, for whatever reason, this aversion to it is something that you are learning and kind of training your body to do.
Yeah, I think so. So, to this person, I think the first thing is this. This is one of those cases, Nick, where I want to ask a million follow-ups.
Yeah, me too.
This is where we'd want that person in front of us so we could start asking questions about some of the beliefs they have around sex, some of what they learned about it, when they learned about it, what the stories they've heard about it are, how they've mythologized it a little bit. There's a lot that we probably need to unpack. But the directness of the question is, am I weird? And there's also the suggestion of, should I hire a hooker? Should I have a one-night stand? I'm going to tell you this. No, I don't want you to go that approach. And I know a lot of friends would tell you yes. They'd say, you know what? Just get it done with, right? Just get this done. You're going to realize it's not that exciting. It's done. The mythology will be over. And, and I can see their logic, right? I can see the logic of just get it done with. I think we've come too far for that. I think that now we're actually at the point where I want not to push you into this because I don't know what's going to happen emotionally and psychologically if you're already feeling depressed when the topic is brought up. Because of that extra aspect of depression, not hesitance, not nervousness, depression.
Right, yeah.
I'm not comfortable with you just diving in to see what happens. I would like you to get into therapy for this. And sex therapy, this is an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about sex therapy, which we don't get to talk about a lot on the show. Mm-hmm. Sex therapy is a discipline within psychotherapy. We have lots of colleagues that do it. I do some of it. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of issues that we experience as humans sexually, whether that's a lack of libido or hyper libido or sex aversion because of sex trauma. For some people, it's actually things like physical arousal, the inability to like perform and have sex. And so these are things that a lot of times we can feel are not things that get addressed with a therapist. They're things you might think you have to take to a gynecologist or a urologist. And the reality is a lot of times this is psychological. In fact, the DSM has an entire chapter for sexual disorders.
Right.
And so this is stuff that really can be addressed and ought to be addressed. But these beliefs surrounding sex are significant. I don't want to ignore them.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's kind of what I was thinking too. There is a lot of questions that I have, a lot of follow-up that I think this would be really good for this individual for you to get into therapy and talk to a professional.
Yeah.
I get your point, and I was kind of...
You want to rip the Band-Aid off?
No.
Are you volunteering? You going to take care of this person? Do a little physical therapy, Nick?
I didn't consider in the part that we were talking about depression.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because I also, I was going to say too that, whether you want to wait for someone special or whether you want to hire a sex worker and get it out of the way.
Right.
There's no fault in either one of those, in my opinion. You're fine either way.
I like it as a thoughtful approach.
It's whatever you feel comfortable with,
right.
Wherever you're at. I don't think you need to worry about being judged by other people. It's where your comfort level is at. But then throwing in the depression piece, I do see that point. Maybe it would be a good idea.
But here's where you're right. Where you're right is that if we look at this more in a phobia sense, then you're right. We should be looking to do in vivo therapy, and you should be considering how we're going to encounter this thing that we have built up and mystified, and we're going to come out the other side And that's essentially exposure therapy.
Right.
And so I still like that approach, but I'd like it under the guidance of a therapist. The same way I would if somebody had arachnophobia. I wouldn't say, oh, what you need to do is just go freaking dive into a spider pit.
Sure.
No, I want you to first encounter with a therapist, make a plan, and then under their guidance, go do that.
Right. And if we were treating this like a phobia, there's a lot of different ways in which you'd deal with that. Like systematic desensitization is something that you would have a therapist kind of walking, having somebody that you can process everything.
Right.
There's also the flooding technique, which I wouldn't.
In a sexual context, all these sound so much more exciting than they really are. So Jacob's over there going, I don't know where they're at, but Jacob, hand check. Where are your hands?
I mean, this all just sounds great.
How do I sign up for this, guys? Does my insurance cover all this?
Flooding I kind of threw in as a joke, but flooding essentially is when you expose yourself to a really high degree of the thing that you're afraid of, because your anxiety level can't stay at that peak moment forever. It naturally has to come down.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be necessarily a good approach in this particular
dive
situation.
Into a body pit.
I do. I do think it would actually be a good idea. Get in, find a therapist.
I want to
somebody,
see a sex therapist.
Establish a relationship with this therapist, and kind of talk some of this through. So no matter what you choose to do with this, how you choose to deal with it, you've at least got somebody that you can bounce some ideas off of.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
And process thoughts and emotions before actually getting into it.
This is another one that, honestly, I want this person with a therapist. Here's why. Because if you do end up getting into a very serious relationship and it's awesome and you're ready for this, that other partner cannot possibly be equipped for whatever's going to happen after sex happens for you.
Good point.
For them, this is another stroll down the park with somebody they really enjoy. For you, this is an unequivocal mountain that you have just climbed, a life milestone which you've been building up, and it has very emotional baggage for you. This is significant, and no partner can possibly be equipped for that. So I want you to encounter a therapist, specifically a sex therapist if you can find one, in part because they're probably going to start desensitizing, like you said.
Yep.
And it will sound weird, but they may even tell you, hey, your homework is I want you to look up porn, and I want you to watch an entire scene of porn, and I want you to take stock of how you feel. Both sides of this. Do you feel aroused? Do you feel ashamed of that? And Nick, this is actually a good part where we should probably point out there's a lot of people who have had sexual trauma as well. Mm-hmm. And some of what this person doesn't indicate sexual trauma, but those who have that identify with some of this.
Oh, I'm sure.
That there's some weird stuff that happens around sex for them. They're aroused. They also feel ashamed. Yep. They feel like they have to run away after sex, and they have to seclude themselves and isolate, and they run from partners because they feel overexposed. If that's you guys, sex therapy is really something I want you to consider. I think, and you might say, well, how do I find a sex therapist? Just go find a therapist. Most of us have done some training in sexual stuff. This all comes back to psychology anyway. But gosh, this is something I'd really want you to do. And definitely don't just dive into the brothel. I don't think that's the right way.
Yeah.
Even though in Nevada, Pod Therapy is brought to you by Dennis Hoff's Cherry Patch, our favorite brothel.
the Pod Therapy stamp of approval.
That's right. The exclusive brothel of Pod Therapy.
Yeah, they've experienced.
I really like the idea of a therapist-supervised brothel visit.
Yeah. Which, if you'd like to inquire, Nick and I offer these services. As Las Vegas therapists, we're there to supervise, provide some hypnotism on the side, whatever you need.
There's a price for everything.
Every man has his price.
All right. Well, thanks for writing in. We do appreciate it.
So to wrap up the show, Nick, we've got some quick apologies, some Patreon thanks, and some quick announcements. I'll launch with my apologies. I'm sure you have some of your own, but dear Theraproducer David Data Scoop Villalon, sorry I recommended a book on boundaries that had Christian overtones, though I think you overreacted by drawing a pentagram on the floor and setting the thing on fire. Maybe next time,
disagree.
Donate it to a bookstore. Dear successful people who wake up at 4 a.m., sorry I implied that your success is not due to your disciplined agenda, but rather to an enlarged prostate, which makes you have to pee. Dear Toys R Us, sorry that I blamed your bankruptcy and layoff of your mascot Jeffrey for the imminent extinction of giraffes in Africa. Those two are probably not related.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Apology. Well, I don't have anybody to apologize to.
Oh, man. Clean slate. Good for you, man.
Yep.
All right. We definitely want to thank our Patreons.
We do. We want to welcome our newest THERAPAL, Yvette Ono.
Yvette Ono, not to be confused with Yoko Ono. This one will not destroy us. At the beginning of every month, we also want to say thank you to all of our THERAPODs. So thank you to our dapper three-toed reptilian special forces of our therapeutic alliance. Thank you, Brooks Lyle, Blaine Maurer, Brad Kefauver, Brian Lehman, Corey Owens, Curtis Hanlon, Dan Martin, David Pollock, who is actually at $8.88, I'll have you know, David Younce, Easy Whip, who I'll have you know is at $6.66, Gavin Bristow, Heather Psychotic Scoop Crace, Ice Blue Scoop, who's at $10, she's the Alpha Therapod, Carrie Terhark, who is Nick's sister.
Yeah.
Your sister is a Therapod. Welcome to my hell. Welcome.
Which, by the way, she didn't say this outright.
Yeah.
But I got a little hint of jealousy.
Oh, that you get to hang out with me?
No.
Oh.
That she was not the first sister on the podcast.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Well,
next time
your sister
she
sponsors
comes down,
the show, so at least she's got that.
Next time she comes down, she
I'll
is
tell you this.
expecting to be a guest.
I am more. I like your sister right now more than mine because yours
$5
kicks
more?
us $5. That's all it takes. We want to thank Kate Keller, who's a $7 member. We want to thank Lori. Sorry, fellas, she's married. Elsroth. Remember we used her maiden name and she's like, don't do that. Leon Kassab. We want to thank Linda Brandmeier, Mandy Abela, Manuela Musaku, Malaya, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Peter Van Pelt, Robert Paulson, who's at $4.99, so he can never not be a Therapod. Or we put him in the Therapod category. He tries to be the top Therapal, but we ain't having it. John, his Twitter is on Fire B, Scoopaholic, Scoopstronaut, who's at 532, and my mom, Tracy Replogle.
Last but not least, we want to thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie, Jr., Mint at $24.99. Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop, Villalon, Judi Schneider, Gray Whitaker, the chairman of the board, and Dr. Ben Don.
And I'll have you know, Dr. Ben Don has sent me his commercial.
Yeah.
And I am under strict orders not to reveal it to you.
Well, guess what?
He saw it?
No.
You saw it?
He sent 2 because he's going to rotate them each month.
Did he accidentally send it to your email?
No. He sent me one
Oh.
to read about you.
No!
Yes.
What are you up to, Ben?
So
wow.
So each month,
He's
one
double
is gonna be,
dealing.
Yeah, one's going to be about me and one's going to be about you.
This is getting
so
weird.
it's-
All right.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited for that, but I definitely have a secret one on you, so I'm super excited. If you'd like to join our fan club, you can go to patreon.com/therapy. If you are an advocate for mental health, if you believe that everybody deserves mental health, and if this is something that you'd like to get behind so folks have somewhere they can write in and experience some therapists during their off-duty hours, come down to patreon.com/therapy and help us make this project possible. Again, we are a non-profit, not for-profit podcast. Every dollar we get goes right back into the movement. Thank you so much. So speaking of our Patreon, Nick,
Yes.
we're going to get fired back up with our book club.
Yeah,
We gotta
holidays
finish
were a
this
little
sucker.
rough.
Yeah.
We kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah,
We're at
so
chapter
book club.
6, so we got to knock out the last 2 chapters, I think.
Yep, we got to finish, I think 7 and 8 and 9, I think is all that's left.
Was there 9?
I think we did
can't
6. So we're finishing up our book club on our Patreon, and we're going to launch a new book. You can also check out Afterthoughts. Afterthoughts, which is with Nick and his girlfriend Laura. And that's kind of a topic show where they reflect on things that we've talked about during the show, and then we kind of get a female perspective, and it usually leaps into other topics as well, which is a lot of fun. And then I am going to be launching a new project here in 2019. I have surveyed our audience. I have asked them what kinds of things they're interested in. The number one thing that people were interested in, Nick, was to hear more techniques, to actually have us show the cards of here's something we do in therapy with people. And as I was preparing to do that for our project or for my individual project, you and I powwowed and we realized we should be doing that during the show.
Right.
Like, that's something we should do during the A block. So I think that's going to be something that we actually bring into Pod Therapy in Season 2. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app, copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and now at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at www.podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for appointment next week.